Back to the economy this hour of At Issue. Glad you've tuned in, and we welcome you to call in. I'm Ben Merens, by the way, in our Vilas Hall, Madison studios for the afternoon. And again tonight at 8 o'clock for our primary election night results program. So if you want to call in, try 800-642-1234. We'll get your calls in a few minutes. We talk once again about the economy. And how do we know how it's doing? What are the indicators we need to look at? And where is it heading? Gerald Celente does a lot of forecasting on this, a lot of discussing of this, and joins me from time to time here on At Issue. Gerald Celente founded and now directs the Trends Research Institute. He authored Trends 2000 and Trend Tracking, the website trendsresearch.com, or go to WPR.org, and you can link to him there. Or listen in. Gerald, welcome back to At Issue. Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon, Ben.
You know, we hear the news, retail sales are the strongest gain in almost half a year. Business inventories are up slightly, but double market expectations. Should we be talking about happy days being here again?
Well, when you look at the expectations, they're very low to begin with, and they're up from last year's dismal year. And what we're seeing is a stimulus bounce. That's it. There's nothing to rejoice about in this number other than it's not as bad as they thought it would be. So, no, there's no recovery, and there's no people are concerned of whether or not there's a double-dip recovery, a recession at hand. We haven't gotten over the first dip. Again, this is only a recession, a stimulus recovery. And when you look at other data, for example, in understanding that current events form future trends, take a look, for example, of what gold did today. It went up over $25 an ounce.
What's that tell you?
It now stands at $1,268. And when you read behind it, people are looking for a safe haven, and particularly the Europeans who've been through this before. You cannot print digital money out of thin air, backed by nothing and producing nothing, to stimulate the economy. This isn't Keynesian economics either, by the way. You know, Keynes also suggested very strongly that you build up the reserves in times of budget surpluses, and we've never really done that.
But, you know, when we talk about are we in a recession, and you say, well, double dip, we never get out of the first one, but the expert economists who come on the program say, well, when you look at what the formula is for being out of recession, so many concurrent quarters of successful growth at a certain amount, that we have met that definition. So why don't you?
Well, they met a definition. But how about these people who are losing their homes? 20 million vacant homes in the United States.
So does that say we're out of it?
Look at the unemployment numbers. Yeah, they could go by a definition, and they could say, well, by definition, you know, you're not dead yet, even though you know you're still breathing and on a respirator, but you're not officially dead yet. You know, this is economic, jive talk.
Well, so is the definition to you that we're out of recession when unemployment hits a certain percentage or a certain number?
Exactly. When the nation is really growing, look at the jobs, and even those numbers are skewed under the Clinton administration, Ben. I mean, this is reminiscent when I was growing up as a kid, and they used to talk about the Soviet Union. Under the Clinton administration, once you're off the unemployment rolls, you're no longer collecting. Guess what? You're not counted anymore. Voila, you vanished. It's the same. This is the same people that no longer add food and fuel into the core inflation rate.
So, what would you put the nation's unemployment rate at?
The shadow statistics by John Williams, who I trust a lot, and I follow him closely. He has effective unemployment, the U6, which puts people that have part-time jobs looking for full-time, people that have given up or can't find jobs. We're looking at about 17.5 to 16.5.
So if we're at 17.5% unemployment, given that higher rate, wouldn't you say our economy seems to be pretty strong?
No, in the sense that why is it staying afloat? And the only reason it is because they're dumping. Since Obama became president, they have spent, lent, and guaranteed over $13 trillion. And so as long as, and this is going on, by the way, worldwide, the central banks in Europe have done it, and that's why they have the catastrophe that they have there. And by the way, you keep looking at this stuff and see what they said and see what they're doing. In talking about Europe, for example, when they came with the common currency and under the Lisbon treaties, you weren't supposed to bail out a failing a country like Greece. That was against the charter. But we're going to do it anyway. Oh, and then you listen to Trichet, the central bank chairman. You know, we're going to be starting to raise those interest rates, and we're not going to loan to banks that need money just because they need it. And then they started doing it. They're loaning money. You listen to his words, for any bank that wants it. It was supposed to end in September. Now, when they extended it 3 months ago, and now they're going to extend it again until January. They're flooding the world with paper money. That's why gold is going up.
Now, we have people who say that the idea was the money from the government was to go to the banks, so the banks would give it to the people. But the banks feared giving it to the people because they didn't trust that the economy was coming back. And it can't come back if the people don't have the money. Seems that there's a economic catch-22 here. A, do you see it that way? And B, how do you see our way out of it?
Well, they have the money. And the money's going to the bigs. You have these huge companies, you know, like the IBMs, the Krafts. They're borrowing at almost nothing. Almost nothing. You have the big bank spend. They're borrowing at almost nothing, and then they're loaning it back. What they're doing is, this country, people should really wake up to what's going on, and this isn't rhetoric. Take the field. Take anyone you want. We could do agriculture. You have a handful of companies that control all the slaughtering, most of the chicken, most of the beef. You have a handful of companies, as you saw with that egg crisis from that factory farm, with 500 million eggs they recalled. And then you look at banking. Count them, two hands. 10 banks control 80% of all of the revenues in the United States.
If you don't want them, if you don't
go through every sector.
Right, but let's talk about the bank side. If you don't want the government to get bigger and have more of a hand in everything going on, then you let the free market work. And the free market, when it works, tends to consolidate. So
no, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
No, what the free market tends to do is it picks up the slack of those who can't make it. And that all my life I've been taught about free market capitalism, except when it comes to the big guys. Then we got to bail them out. That's a lot of baloney. What they've done since Bush and Obama is they have concentrated the wealth of the nation more and more into the hands of a few. As I was saying, as you go down the list, the media, you go down every category. They've made it possible, and they keep doing it, to keep feeding the bigs and starving the smalls. That's why the little guy can't get the money.
So for the average little guy and gal in America listening to this program or programs like it, saying, well, what can I do, or I can't do anything, I'm helpless, what do you tell them?
We believe in the 20% solution, and you know, things right now are starting to change. You're seeing it. And again, it's not taking a position. I'm a political atheist. You know that from the years of talking with me. This Tea Parties, and I'm not an advocate of the Tea Parties. I want to make that clear. But if you thought that 3 years ago that Americans would have gotten off their lazy boys and onto the streets, people would have said you were crazy. And I know that for a fact because in 2007 we predicted tax revolts. You're seeing a change take place, and these are the first salvos of it. We believe there's going to be a new third party. And by the way, people ask me, who would I vote for? Who would I vote for president? Well, you know, on the environmental issues, and I was listening to one of the newscasts as I was waiting to get on the phone about these imbeciles in the Defense Department that dumped all of these pollutants into Lake Superior. You know, yeah, military intelligence right there for you, folks. Anyway, on the environmental issues, when it comes to food and clean water, clean air, yeah, I care what I eat and breathe. I'm a Ralph Nader guy right down the line on those issues. On issues such as not becoming involved in foreign entanglements, on the Federal Reserve issues, on the government staying out of my life, out of my bedroom, and out of my personal life. I'm with Ron Paul. Saying that, I believe there's going to be a new third-party movement, and for lack of a better term, I call it progressive libertarian. And we see that kind of movement growing very strongly in America. And that could be the kind of thing that breaks the grasp of the Republican and Democratic mafia that's been running the country.
I want to ask you one more question before we get to a break and get some calls to you, because you said this to me off the air. You said that one of the answers, well, two in the answers, you get to one of them before we break, is we need to cut the military budget, which is sacrosanct by almost everybody's discussion. So I want to hear your point on that. And the other is we need to tax religion in this country and nonprofits. You want to touch one of those?
Yeah, sure. The first one on defense. We just heard President Obama say he's going to hold the line on spending. His words, but he's not going to touch national security budget. Why not? Oh, this is that great liberal. Oh, by the way, 70 drone attacks in Pakistan just in the last year under the Obama administration. These wars are unjust wars, and they're also being fought for trumped-up and/or fake reasons. We are squandering our resources abroad, and everyone is afraid to talk about it. Here's my line, by the way. Anybody in favor of these wars, send yourself, send your wife and kids, and send your money. There's a job there for you. You know, the kitchen, the food has to be cooked, laundry has to be done. If you really believe in these wars, and send your money, because this is draining our country. Eisenhower warned us of it, and it continues to go on. They are robbing this country blind with these military. There's more military contractors over in Afghanistan than American soldiers. So cut the budget. On the other issue, we just saw this guy Jones down in Florida.
Let's say, before we go there, let me take the break.
Sure.
And we'll come back.